Okay, well we might make a start. For those people that are new to the room, I'm Stephen Harlow from the Waikato Centre for E-Learning, and I am your introducer for this session. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Jacqui Land, who's going to give you a case study on Moodle use in a New Zealand school. So, without further ado, Jacqui.
Thanks. What I'm aiming to do in this presentation is basically going to share sort of our Moodle journey, highlight some of the tools in Moodle that we've used and some of the ways that we use them, and also sort of partly how we've set up our Moodle site and how we've implemented it and got staff on board, and so it's now being used school-wide. It's quite hard to know what level to pitch it at, because I presume there's some people in here who are only just new to Moodle and some who are very experienced, so I'm sorry if it's not quite at your level, but hopefully everyone will pick up at least one idea of something they could use and take back. I'm only just going to show what we use. I'm not going to actually go into how you set those things up. So if anyone has any questions as we go through some of the things, or you want to come and speak to me afterwards about them, then please do so. So first of all, just very quickly, as I said, my name's Jacqui Land. I'm actually Director of ICT now at Papanui High School and have been for the last couple of years. I started out there 10 years ago as Head of Science and then moved into Assistant Principal job and have now moved looking after all the ICT. This year I'm actually on study leave, completing my Masters in Education through Canterbury University, looking at digital citizenship using a Moodle course, which I'm doing a session on tomorrow. So if anyone wants to see what we're doing around digital citizenship and digital literacy and some of the other tools we're using, then I can do that. The other pictures were just to fill up a bit of space, really. The picture of the horse is not me, but I spend a lot of time throwing my daughter and her horse around to events. So that's what I spend my time doing when I'm not stuck to my computer moodling. We began our Moodle journey probably in about 2007. Originally we started off on a learning management system probably around 2005 using something called Interact, which some of you might know, especially from Christchurch. It was similar to Moodle, and it was produced by someone at the College of Education in Christchurch. It actually was very good, but when the College of Ed and the university were merging, it became apparent that Interact was probably likely to disappear, but it took the university a couple of years to make that decision, so we actually bailed really early on in that piece because we were just about to get all our staff on board with Interact. We'd introduced all the idea and then we found it was going, so we thought we'd move to Moodle. Started off in a very early version of Moodle. At the same time we also moved our school website onto Moodle, because at the time our website was hosted externally and it was really hard to actually get access to the website. If you wanted something on your website, you had to go and tell someone in the school you wanted it on, and they had to go and tell the webmaster, and then they had to put it on, and by the time it actually got up there it was actually out of date. So we wanted something that we could actually update the website ourselves. So we put our school website on our Moodle site and had one Moodle site. We had all the classic navigation down the left hand side, and that's sort of where we started. I'm sorry there's not a picture in the middle, but I had to go back to the Wayback Machine to get a screenshot of it because I'd lost the screenshot I had of our actual original site. After that we upgraded to a later version of Moodle, and we found that first instance we had, everything was using those just the course categories that you had. So I mean, you go to lots of Moodle sites and that's what you see. Everyone has the whole list of course categories and all the courses down the middle, and that's actually really hard to navigate. We also started off that teachers could actually create courses, and so they'd go in and actually create their Year 10 maths course, but they'd actually drop it into the Year 10 English category, and then they'd come the next day and say, I did all this but I can't find my course, and it's probably because you've done it in maths, not in English. Or they'd create their course and then not do anything for 6 weeks, and they'd come back forgetting they'd actually created it. So they'd create 2 courses for their Year 10 maths course, and then they'd do something in one, and of course they then next time go and look at their other one and goes, oh, disappeared. So we basically took all that away. We now only have 2 administrators in the school that have full admin rights to everything. They're the only people who can create courses and what have you. We have created a course for every single subject and every teacher in the school. So if you suddenly come to us and say, I want my Moodle course, I want to use with my students next lesson, it's actually there ready to go. So people don't have to wait for courses, and we do have quite a few courses that are sitting there at the minute doing nothing, but we found that actually works a lot better. If somebody suddenly decides they want to do something, they actually want to do it now. Teacher has this hour they've decided they're going to put aside for it. They don't actually want to wait 2 weeks for you to do it. We also went to menus along the top. So everything now is menu based, either the drop-down menus or I'll show you some of our other menus that we have on the front pages. So our teachers never see the course categories or the course list. That's all basically hidden from them, and that's to try to make it easier for them to go to. The thing we then did when we went to this version of our site was we actually separated what we called our website to what we call PapNet. PapNet is what we call our internal Moodle site. So if I refer to PapNet, I'm talking about our Moodle site. The students came up with the name, and we ended up colour coding them, because what we found with the website was people were going to the website and you had all the menus, some which were actually only relevant for people inside the school, and some were actually only relevant for people outside of the school. So we decided that our website is basically for marketing and for people who don't as yet have anything to do with the school but want to find out about the school, and our PapNet site is for if you're currently associated with the school, if you're a parent, a teacher or a student. So because they were all on the same site, we just colour-coded the pages, because people were saying, am I on the website, am I on the Moodle site, and it was confusing them that actually they were the same, actually on the same platform. So everything that was internal was blue, everything that was external was green, and that actually worked quite well for quite a while. But that then had issues, because the blue page is basically our internal home page, but when you clicked on home, it actually takes you to the green home page, and some people were getting annoyed that they're trying to press home and we're getting back, and then we have to try and flick back into it. So when we moved to Moodle 2, we basically separated them out again. So our Moodle site now is only our PapNet site, and we've taken the website. Our website's just moved to all teams host our website now. We basically have access to still put everything up on there, so we still have all the full editing rights to our website, but it is no longer a Moodle site, our website. So everything in PapNet is actually now just Moodle. So once we decided on our website, so we've gone for menu bars across the top, and you really need to think about how you're going to set it up. So we've gone for menus. That's just showing some of the course categories, but I go to lots and lots of sites where that's all you look at, and it's actually, people find it really hard to look at. We've also given, as well as having two admins who have admin to everything, we've actually given HODs teacher rights for all their subjects in their department. So if they want to, they can decide that somebody else can have a course. You automatically get editing rights or teacher rights to the course that you teach in. So if you teach a course, you're already enrolled in that, but an HOD can say, well, I want you to be in charge of all the biology courses, and they can give access rights to those. So they can allocate rights within their department, but nowhere else. We've also made our Moodle site is basically a one-stop shop for everything that students go to. So if they're going to anything online, they now go to our Moodle site. We've also tried to do that to get staff especially to start using Moodle. We used to have what we call the G drive, which is a shared drive on our school network, which where documents and the duty rosters and things like that used to get put on there. And departments used to share end of topic tests or things like that, but I don't know about your school, but ours, you'd go in there and there'd be 10 copies of the exam timetable or 10 copies of the duty roster, and you actually would never know which one was the right one. So we said everything has to go on here, and there's one copy of it, and whichever copy's on here is the up-to-date copy. So even if you have been emailed copies on paper, if it's not on here, then it's not your accurate copy. And we've also, for the staff, we've used lots of Google Docs, and so things like our duty roster and our referral room roster, things like that, are all a Google Doc, which is then embedded in here. So if you change the document, it automatically changes on here. And that's been really good at getting staff to know where to go to get the latest information. We have a weekly staff newsletter that now all goes on here. It used to go in people's pigeonholes as a hard copy. Now the only way they can access it is by going online, and we found that's been really helpful to actually get teachers to use it. So although they're not actually teaching in it, they're not actually having to create a course, but they are actually having to go into Moodle. So when you say, right, now you are going to start using it with your classes, they actually feel like they do at least know what Moodle is, they know how to navigate around, they know what a course basically looks like. We've also linked from here to any other programs that staff might need to go to, so all the links to BrainPop and to Wiki Educator and other things that staff, Mathletics and things is all linked from here. So if you want to find something, this is where they go. When they log in, we've also made it single sign-on. Our single sign-ons with the GCSN single sign-on set up. So all our staff and teachers go to PapNet beginning of the day, they log in and it automatically logs them into their mail and it logs them into My Portfolio. So they only need to log in once. We also found that's been really good because all these other things are actually linked from our Moodle site. They're actually trying to get staff to use Google Docs and use My Portfolio. They think it's all part of Moodle. We're not saying, right, now we're going to use Google Docs, now we're going to use My Portfolio, now we're going to use something else. Because it all links from here, they sort of feel more comfortable with it. They just think it's an extra add-on or an extra tool that's part of Moodle, because they know Moodle does lots of things, they know they're not going to know everything. So that's actually really helped to get staff to sort of feel happier that they're using things. They know that Google Mail isn't Moodle, but they actually seem a lot happier because they've gone through that process. Ours is also set up for students. I don't know if anyone here uses Kmart. If you use Kmart as your student management system, there's 2 blocks that you can put on Moodle. One gives them the daily notices. That pulls straight out of the Kmart notices. So all our student notices are put into Kmart by the teachers. The students just click on notices and they can access the student notices from there. And when those students log in, it automatically logs them into the student portal in Kmart. So they can log in, they can look at their timetable, they can look at their results and things like that, which those students really, really like. And it's all on the front page, so it's really easy for them to navigate. They can then look up their results or check if attendance has been marked. We've also used it, this year's the interviews part on the block actually links to the student profile area in Kmart, which allows you to actually have interviews with students, but you can put the questions into Kmart as a teacher. The students can access into here, type their answers to the questions in, and they actually automatically appear in your student management system. So when you actually then have that meeting with the students, you've actually got some input of what the students have done. And it's not on the list at the minute because it wasn't open, is that we also do our course selection through here, this block as well. So students go to Moodle, click on course selection, they can then do their course choices, and it automatically sends that data straight back into Kmart. So the timetables are all ready to do that. So those are 2 really useful blocks if you with Kmart that actually the students really like, and that's all through the single sign-on as well. As I said before, we've tried to keep our site as user-friendly as we can, so we've tried to do it so they don't see those course categories and course lists. They're all there in the background, but they don't see them. So this is an example of one of the pages that we have. This is our sports page. So we just basically do it as a menu on the front page. So this links to basically each of these actually link now, these link to basically a course page on our Moodle site for each sport, but the sports is now actually hosted on our website because the All Teams website is actually really good for sports. So these are just links. Our students still go to PapNet to get the information, even though that's stored somewhere else. And the one thing we like about Moodle is that you don't have to do everything in Moodle. If another tool is better for it, you can do it in that tool and actually embed it or link from Moodle. But we try to use this as our starting point and then go to whatever tools we want to use. So this bit in the middle is basically just a label. In the middle is just a simple table, inserted images in the table, and then hyperlink out to the pages. But it makes the navigation a lot nicer to look at, a lot more visual, which the students like, to get to where we want to go. So if you click on any of those sports, it then actually takes you out of Moodle to our new sports pages, so you're actually using the two things together, but the students, instead of, because our students never go to our website, so they'd never think to go and look at the sports pages on our new website. They'd think of going to PapNet because that's where they access the information. So they go to there and that will then throw them out. We've done a similar thing for all our departments. We basically spoke to the departments and asked them how they wanted their layout to look. They don't all look exactly the same. This is the science one. They said they wanted the main subjects and then year levels. Most of them are based on this sort of format because the science one was done first and other departments said, we can't like that, we'll just do the same. But some of them only have the year levels, some of them just have subjects. Again, that's just a table, inserted images and then just hyperlinks out to the courses. It takes a little while to set them up because obviously you've got to set up your pictures, you've got to set up your hyperlinks, but we found once it's set up and there, it's actually, you generally have to change one or two every now and then as the course moves or changes. I said we've also set up all of these ready to go, so we do have some departments who aren't really using Moodle very much at all at the minute, but their course pages are all set up exactly like that, all ready to go. So there actually is something on the page for people to look at when they go, and again it then makes it easier once departments actually want to start using it. There's something to go on, because we found when it was just totally blank and it was just a science homepage, it was too overwhelming for departments. They were like, actually I don't know where to start, I don't know what to do. At least if they've got it looks like that, they will, at least I know I'm going to put my body stuff under biology and so I can make a start. So it's all about making them feel that it was actually easy to get to. When we create a new course, we basically have made them as basic as possible. If you just follow the default settings in Moodle, it tends to give you 4 or 5 blocks down the right hand side, and sometimes it defaults to 52 weeks and is your weekly setting. None of our teachers actually like the weekly setting, the weekly topics, so why create all your courses in weeks? You can now in Moodle actually specify which format you want, how many topics you want and things. We take off all the blocks and everything, because what we're finding when teachers were going and they had a blank course and they had all these topics listed and then all these blocks, they didn't know what to do with them. And then they'd go and put a heading, and you go to the course and it actually would have very little on it and it would just look a mess because they've got all these blocks that actually don't have it, that aren't being used. And so we've taken everything off and said if you want the blocks you can put them back on really easily, but at least it doesn't look really messy. Most of them when we generate them we actually only put one topic in, so they only have one thing in. It doesn't look as though it's not being used, it looks like there's something on there. As we've set up our thing initially as a topic format. The topic format basically just lists all the topics in a wrong way. I'm sorry I haven't got a pointer. I tried to get a pointer but it didn't arrive. All the topics listed down the page. Some of our departments, this is an example from one of our courses where they've got hundreds of topics going down the page. This topic's got about 20 topics going down the page, and all they've got is all of these lists of programs. So if someone goes to that course, it actually looks really daunting, because it's like, which resource do I want? There's so much writing they can't actually work out which subtraction thing they want. They haven't used any labels to separate them. So we've actually moved away from having topic formats. It's what the default is, because it's easy for them to use if they've only got one topic, but you do need to be careful if you're using topic format, that it can get really, really quickly, your course can get really out of control and really long and hard to navigate. The one that we use quite a lot now is the one topic format, which I don't know whether it's a plugin or comes as standard. Yeah, I think it's a plugin. What the one topic format does though is it gives you these tabs along the top for your topics. So this is still my course. That screenshot has come from that topic format we had, that had 5 topics listed down, but it's now put them across the top. So all you actually see when you look at your course is it only shows one topic at a time. So I'm only going to get either my introduction, I'm only going to get my what was in topic 1. So even if you have a reasonable amount in that topic, it's still only going to go so far down your page. You're not going to have the whole long list. So in terms of making your course look tidier, making navigation easier, that's really useful for shortening your courses. The other one that we use quite a lot, which is still based on topic format, is called single sections, which again I think is an add-on. The single sections does the same thing, but if you use single sections, you need to remember you have to add the course menu as a block. It doesn't automatically, when you select single sections as your topic format, it doesn't automatically give you a course menu. So you create it and then you say, oh, I can't get to any of my topics anymore. So you have to just add the course menu block, and then it will actually put your sections on there. So that's now taken, the sections are now my topics. So that now gives me my 5 topics, so I can access those from that menu on the right hand side instead of the tabs along the top. The advantage of this format is when you're on topic 0, which is where you have your summary bit at the top of your course, you also get the news forum, and it shows on that front page. So that's quite useful if you're actually using it sort of in your regular teaching to actually put a notice up, this is what you're going to do today, or this is what your homework is. It's actually on that front page and the students can see it really easily. So and that's why I like that format rather than the tabs one. Sometimes if you've got notices, it's actually a good way of them being able to look at them. We've also got some other courses, which those 2 formats are basically where you've got everything in the same course. So I've got all my units for my subject, and they're all in that one course. I've just separated them out into the sections. We have other courses where the teachers have decided they actually want a separate course for each unit within it to save them getting really long. If I've got topics I've got in chemistry, I've got 6 different topics. If I've got each of those a topic and then I try to break them down, it still ends up with a fairly long and cumbersome course. So I've created a separate course for each of my topics that I teach in chemistry, and then all I've done to create the menu on the right hand side is put an HTML block on there, which I'll go over it again a little bit later, and then I've just hyperlinked to basically my 6 separate courses, and then just copied and pasted that code onto each page. So it's actually, this is acting as though it's one course, because they can navigate really easily between all the courses, and it just helps to keep that navigation so it's all nice in one block. Yep.
You use, say for example, your year 10 class.
Yep.
Because you might have like 5 or 6 teachers teaching year 10.
Yep.
So do you have an umbrella course and then you go for each teacher as a separate course so they can run their own homework, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, we've got, in science, we've got basically a year 10 science page which has all the units for year 10 science. You can choose just to use that course with your students, but each teacher also has their own course, so they can either use the generic course and just use their own course for homework or stuff just for their class, or some teachers have actually copied the whole year 10 course, put that into their own area, and then they can actually delete out resources they don't want and add extra resources. So it's up to the teachers how they actually want to, or depends how they want to use it. Yep.
In that case, the first scenario you gave where there were the initial course, and then some teachers may well run their own, not that they've taken a copy, but they've got something that they've created, and there's the original year 10 course. Do the students not end up there enrolling double the number of courses? Because that's the problem that we've got at the moment, is that I'm a maths teacher, we wanted a year 9 maths course, but we didn't want them enrolled in the skeleton, the framework, and then enrolled in a separate course, because then if we did that for every subject, instead of having 6 courses, the kids were enrolled in double the number for every subject.
The teachers, because our teachers enrol the students either through enrolment keys or they enrol them, so they enrol in whichever course they want them.
So you're only enrolled in
one course.
I think you could use metacourses for that scenario too. You could enroll in a metacourse and then feed them through to
The other option is to have your parent course create groups within that course based on your enrolment keys, and then you have all your different teachers will have their group within that parent course, and you can tag resources that you add just to your kids, so that only your class can see that extra file that you add, and that means they'll have one course from that.
Right, so that's sort of how we set up our course and the structure and things. So when I go through some of the blocks and activities and resources, we've added quite a lot of extras into ours. So some of these will come standard, some of them you'll need to download and add in. All the ones we use seem to work really well on our system. We haven't had any problems with any of them when we've updated. Some of the things, they're all updated really well, so they should all be fairly safe blocks and things to use. This is from Moodle 2, so those who are on Moodle 2, they've now put, as we've shown before, the activities and resources under the same menu. The other thing they've done in Moodle, the newer versions, is when you actually hover over one of the activities or resources you want to put on, it actually brings up another screen next to it. It actually explains what it does, which is actually really useful for teachers. We had all of these and teachers were like, oh, I might want to add one of these, but actually they had no idea what it was or how it worked unless they went out to the Moodle.org site and had a look. But now if you hover over it, it actually shows you what and explains a bit about it, which is really useful. Some of the actual added plug-in extra ones doesn't always give you all the information. I see most people have actually had a look at the assignments, and some of the assignments you can add in. One of the extra ones that we've added in, which is proving really useful, is the Mahara portfolio assignments. So if you're using My Portfolio, which is the one for schools, and or Mahara, any of those you can add as one of your assignment types the Mahara portfolio, and it works the same as the upload a single file. So this is basically my Dropbox for My Portfolio assignment. So the students just click on that to submit their entry. It then opens up this screen, and it actually pulls out of My Portfolio all the pages that they have in My Portfolio. The students then just click on whichever one of these they want. So if I want to put my appraisal goals as my assignment, I just click submit, and that then puts that into my assignment. When it does that, it actually freezes that page in My Portfolio, because the thing with My Portfolio, students can actually go and keep changing their work. As soon as they click submit, it freezes it in My Portfolio until you as a teacher release it back to the students. So if you want to keep it for moderation, you can not release that page and say that that page is now frozen. It's going to stay in here, I'm going to mark it, and so the students can't go back in, because that was one of the problems with students submitting work on My Portfolio for especially for credit assessments, is that how do you then stop the students changing or altering the work once it's been marked. But by doing that, it actually stops it. You then can then grade it in Moodle, and if you then release it back to the students, it actually sends back into My Portfolio as the comments, the actual grades and marks that you gave them. And here, so the students actually have a record of their grades and marks in My Portfolio as well as on their Moodle assignment. Another one we've used quite a lot, but especially for staff PD, we've just finished a 3-year ICT PD contract, so we offered quite a lot of ICT PD for staff on a regular basis, and we use bookings as an add-on, so staff can actually sign up for sessions. You can create however many different sessions you want. You can say when the session is going to run. You can decide when the booking is going to open, when they're going to close. You can specify how many places are available in each site. You can also have it so that it will email you every time a booking's made. You can get it so it'll email them a reminder that they've made a booking. You can set up booking conditions if they have to read or something before they sign up. So they just go to whichever session they want to sign up for. They just click the Book Now button, and it adds their details to thing. And then as an admin, you can go in and have a look, manage the responses and see who's signed up. But that could be used for students as well, for signing up for tutorials or things like that. Troice, I'm sure most people have looked at the Troice activity. Quite useful, just asking a single question. Students can give various responses which you can highlight. You can decide whether the students can always see the responses. You can choose that they can only see them after they've answered. You can choose that they can only see it next week. it's up to you when or you can decide that they can't see the responses at all, and you can decide whether they're going to publish with the student name or whether it's just going to be anonymous. But they're quite good for if you want to get a quick poll on a topic, if you want to test students' understanding of something, maybe at the beginning of a lesson, or tell them for homework just to go and check what they've learnt. They're quite useful to add in. We've used databases in a couple of areas as well. A database basically allows you to have a collection of entries on various things. You can decide what information you are going to put into that database, and you can have checkboxes, radio buttons, drop-down menus, so you can make it easy for people to tag things. If students were adding information, you can basically create a template and say you must add this information. They can click what they need to do. If you put stuff in, you can actually also, they can rate what they see. You can also set it up so they can leave comments. You can actually, if they're rating it, that can then go as a mark into the gradebook if you wanted it to. Several ways you can use it. This is one of the ways we've used it. We set up a whole load of teaching strategies when we were sort of doing our RAFA initiative. So these are just a whole load of different things that you might want to use with students, but we set it up as a database. We set up a table so they could actually click on them, but you can also go straight in the database and search, I want to do something for Jigsaw. We also link them to other things, so things that might be used as starters in lessons, things that might be used as quick things to do at an end of a lesson, things that they were linked to key competencies, so you could search for strategies that we thought would associate with managing self. And you can upload files and things, so you can link to various files and things in there. And our art department also used it for students to upload artwork. So the students uploaded a piece of their artwork, and then other students could go and look at what they'd done and could rate their information. Forums we've used quite a lot for student discussions. We've used them at the beginning of courses for students to get to know each other, where they post some information about themselves, especially sort of year 9s. It's quite a good way of getting them used to Moodle, used to the forums, and something that's not very threatening because they can all talk about themselves. So we've used it for putting information like that. You can set up a discussion page, like English use it to discuss movies or discuss books. You can put questions in there. You can set them up in various ways, so you can have them set them as questions and answers. You can set it up so students have to reply to a post before they can actually post something. So there's various ways you can use them. We also use it with one class as a one-on-one information session. If you set up a forum in groups and only have one student per group, only you and the student can then see that forum, and it's quite a good way of the students being able to write questions, or if they're not sure about something in a lesson, they can actually type it into there. No one else can see it, and you can actually respond to what they're doing. The glossary is a standard thing which you can either just use as a dictionary and put your keywords for your topic in. You can have them so that they auto-link, so anything that's highlighted in green is actually auto-linked to another word that's in the dictionary. So if you auto-link the words, it means if you've got a piece of writing anywhere in your course, wherever that word crops up, students can hover over it and find out what that definition is, which is really useful. We've also used them for pictures and things, like in organic chemistry. We've put up the images of organic compounds and stuff, so they can actually visually see things. You can use for anything that you want to, really. I mean, anything, you can put images in there, you can put videos in there. So they have quite a lot of things. You can also have them so that students can actually input the words, so they can add an entry. So you can have a class for homework that they need to go and add a word each thing. You can actually then get the other students to go and have a look at them. They can comment on those entries if they want. Again, they can rate those comments, so you could use it as a teaching tool. And that way it doesn't just have to be you entering information. The other thing we've used a couple of times is the journal. A journal is basically where students basically individually get a journal, and they can actually type in their own comments. So when I was trying a digital citizenship course last year with a class, they basically kept a journal, and they actually typed in their comments at the end of each lesson to give feedback on what they were doing. The only problem with the journal is that it doesn't give any, it's basically a blank page, and so they'd have to remember to put the date in or a heading or something. Otherwise they just end up writing a whole long list, and then actually when you go back to look at it, you can't actually tell what they've done. You can leave a comment, but it leaves the comments separate from what the students have written. So if they were writing the top comment, I was then leaving a response to what they'd written or answering a question they may well have asked, but it was actually, if they didn't check it every time they'd written something and I'd replied, it was actually getting really hard to follow, because especially if they didn't put a title on what they were writing and then I responded to it, you couldn't necessarily match up which response of mine went to which comments they'd written. So that's when we then moved to do this actually into using the forum and having separate groups with one student in a group, because in a forum, if the student writes the post, you answer it under that post and you can actually follow the thread. So it's quite useful depending on what you want to use it. English have used it for students doing their wide reading and things to record comments and things about what they've done, but it does have some limitations. But again, you just choose whichever tool is the best tool for what you want to do. We've had lots of teachers who actually have looked at some of these tools and have come in and said, I really, really want to use a journal with my class. And you say, well, why? What do you want to actually use it for? What do you actually want to achieve? And then you talk to them and say, well, actually, you'd be much better off using a forum for it if that's what you want to do. Whatever. So we're trying to get teachers now, instead of coming to us and saying, this is what I want to do, I want to use this tool, because they pick up here something when they go to any PD or something and say, I now want to use this, I'm going to be really IT savvy and I'm going to use a wiki. But then you actually talk to them about what they want, they actually are much better tools for what they're doing. So now when staff come to us for help, we say, well, what do you want to do? What do you actually want your end goal to be? And then we say, well, these are the tools that you could use that would be suitable for that task, and try and do it that way around.
Can it be anonymous, so the students can, like, be really honest in their feedback, because they know that the teacher doesn't know who it is? Do you know what I mean? Because if they're commenting on your teaching content, they might not want to do that particularly honestly,
I don't think they can in the journal, because I think it's down to the thing. There's other ways they can do that though, which I'll show you in a minute to get anonymous feedback.
So with the journal, it's only the student and the teacher that can
Yep,
see it,
yep.
not the students can see it.
No.
It's complex set of permissions.
Yeah.
No.
The student chooses.
Lesson is another quite useful tool. Lessons actually take quite a long time to set up, and you actually need to think about how you're going to map out the lesson really before you use it. The lesson, basically, you can add images, you can add videos, you can add lots of information. So if you've got information you want the students to read, the lesson can be quite useful because it can be quite visual. You can also, the advantage of the lesson is you can add questions in. So you can have, I think you have drag and drop questions, multiple choice and short answer questions. And so that you can get the students to watch a video, the next page, and click next will take them to a question. They need to answer that question, and then depending on the answer to that question, they can then go, it will send them somewhere else. So if they do it and they get the question right, they can go on to the next page. If they get it wrong, you can either make them go back to watch the video again, or you can make them go to another page to get other information. So they're quite useful, especially at the end of the year for revision. If you're doing revision with a class, this is the way you through if you know everything. If you don't, if you get stuck here, this is where you want to go. And it records all the students' answering, so you can grade them on what they've got. So there's lots of scope for using them, but they do take a little while to set up. Or you can set them up for scenarios and things. So this is a video, watch the video. If you think this is going to happen next, go to this page. If you think this is going to happen next, go to this page, and then you actually take them on different routes depending on what their interests or ideas are. The quiz area is another thing that's been greatly improved in recent versions of Moodle. You now end up with a question bank, and it's a lot easier to import your questions. and things. You can set up any types of questions. There's multiple choice, drag and drop, all sorts of questions that you can have in there. They're all self-marking apart from the essay style questions, but everything else you can set it up to self-mark. The marking does take time sometimes, especially if you're doing short answers, to actually set up all the different variations for it to self-mark. But you can decide what feedback you give to students, so there's plenty of options either at a question level or a whole quiz level as to what feedback the students get depending on what mark they get. You can also set it up so it will give a hint. So you can allow them to attempt a question more than once, but if they write this, then you're going to get a hint as to what the answer would be. So they are really versatile in how much feedback you can give, but again, some of them do take quite a long time to actually set up. You can set one up very basic if you don't want to put any feedback or anything in very quickly, but if you actually want to use it for real teaching and learning, actually give lots of feedback and feed forward for the students, then it does take a little while to put those on. Unfortunately, one of the updates, they've removed some of our question types, but you can, there's an add-on for the question types called drag and drop questions, and those are really, really good. They allow you to actually have images in your questions, so you can do things like the human body and actually have labels for the students to label the human body, or flags of the world and get them on a map to do those. And those are actually really, really quick and easy to set up, and they're much more visual than some of these quiz questions, and so the students really, really like them. But unfortunately, when I went to try and grab some, they disappeared for some reason. Another add-on you can have is called the Realtime Quiz, which I don't know if any of you use the old clicker question things, or so those with students clicking questions. You set it up like a normal quiz. You can only do multiple choice. That's what it works on. So I put in one question in my quiz. You as a teacher click the start quiz. You can put a name in for it, so if you want to put the date in, so because you can actually go back and look at the answers for any student who's answered this question, or any students on a particular day or in a particular class. Once you click start the quiz, it then opens it up for the students. The students can open up their site and can actually go and join. Once they join the quiz and you're happy that everyone is logged into the site, you click next. They get and answer the question. You can decide how long they get to answer the question, and it counts down for them, and then immediately you can go to view responses and it'll tell you how many people have picked those questions. So if you're in a class where students will have access to the computer, they're all on Moodle and you're there with them, it's quite a good way of getting instant feedback in real time. Let's try and whiz through some of these. Wikis basically work like normal wikis. You can create your pages. The one limitation of a wiki, we've had several teachers have set up wikis for their class, thinking like this is one that I set up on types of solids for my students, and they had to find out all different information about the types of solids, and I thought this is good, they can all work together, groups, and we can come up with this wiki basically with all the information they need in it. The only problem is you can only have one student working on one page at a time. So you need to be really careful how you actually set up the wikis and use them, because we had them and then actually half the class couldn't actually do anything because someone else was editing that page. So there are limitations of the wiki in here. So this may well be something that you actually go and use an external wiki and then embed that into here. We have used it, it has been relatively successful, but the book is another way of actually getting, if you've got lots of information that you want students to use. We've used some of these for, this is part of a help book on using Moodle or using the portal and stuff for our students. And it basically is just information, but you can put videos in there, you can put images in there, so it's a sort of more visual book than just the students just reading sort of a textbook stuff, because you can make it a little bit more interactive. It just ends up with a table of contents on the side. They can click the arrows to go to the next page, but you can have chapters and you can have sub-chapters, and you can basically put as much information as you want in there. So if there's lots of information you want to students. We've also had some teachers have used it to showcase students' work, so maybe artwork, and the students put a different piece of art on a different page, and you end up with a book with all their work. Labels are really useful things to use. That first course I showed at the beginning that had all those lists of maths pages, just putting a simple label in between some of them, either saying, explaining what the resource does, or a title that these are subtraction, these are addition, these are multiplication, just makes it really easy for people to start navigating or seeing what you're doing, and it makes it much nicer to look at. And you can put anything into a label. So I mean, you can change the font size, you can change the colour size, you can add images, you can add videos, and that's a video in a label. So basically use them to break up your course and make it look a bit more exciting for students to use. There's another add-on you can add on, which is the Lightbox Gallery. So if you've got lots of images, we have a Kimiora unit, and students are always out and about doing things, and they always want all their pictures online. So they've got hundreds of Lightbox galleries, and they go on, and the kids just love going on and looking at their pictures, but they're all just in one frame. Daily notice ones I mentioned at the beginning, and our single sign-on, and that's just a block we've added. These are the notices that come straight out of our KMR notices, and the students log on to those. We've actually got that open as guest access, so that if the students quickly want to get to a notice, they don't actually have to log on. If they're doing it from their phone or something, they can access them easily. And the feedback module would be what you'd probably use if you wanted to get feedback from students. You can actually make this either anonymous, or you can tell the students that they want to give their name. So if you want to get feedback from students, this is probably what you'd use for that. You can have multiple choice questions, you can have short questions. There's a variety of types of questions you can have to gather feedback. The top right hand side shows what it looks like if you actually go into the results. Unfortunately, I didn't have much data in there. But that would all fill in, so it's actually really visual to see what you're doing. We however, don't use that a huge amount to get student feedback. A lot of our feedback we use Google Forms for. The feedback's given in pretty much the same way. The advantage of Google Forms, which is why we use those probably more than the feedback, is in Google Forms you can actually go to another question depending on your answer. Because quite often when students are answering questions, like if they answer yes, we want them to go here. If they answer no, we want them to answer that question. In Google Forms, you can set that up really easily. So based on their answer, it's going to send them somewhere else. You can also in Google Forms make it look pretty. Google Forms has themes, whereas the feedback one is whatever themes on your course. Students like things to look pretty, and so if you do it in a Google form, then we just embed the form in a page. So it's still, the students click on it, the students don't necessarily know that this is a Google form or it's come from Google. They're just clicking on the Moodle page, which opens up. All the theming around it still looks like our Moodle site, but they're actually completing it on a Google form. So again, that's another thing where you use the best tool for the job. In most cases, this is actually more useful to us than the feedback, but because it still looks like it's in Moodle, they don't necessarily know where they're going. It's all part of Moodle as far as they're concerned. HTML block goes inside. HTML block I think scares some people because they think you have to know HTML to use the block, but basically if you click on the editing pencil, it just brings up the normal editing block, so you can put any just total writing in there. We use them down the side of our course things to link to things. We've used it as menus to link to other courses. We've used it to link to help videos, but put an image in there, so they just click on the image to take them to where they want to go. You can embed anything that you can get the HTML code from, which is where it's useful, you can use to embed in the HTML block. So basically you can put anything in that block at all. So if there's anything you think would be good to have on your site, basically using that block you can add it in. Another one which we've fairly recently discovered, which some teachers like, is the lesson objectives block. That is all based basically on time, so you can set up the timetable for your lessons for your class, and then you can type in your objectives for that lesson. When the students log on at that time, so in that lesson, it actually will bring up the objectives for that lesson. If you click on the expand box where the arrow is coming from, it actually puts it into a nice big block. So if you're using it with your class, you can actually expand it up and they can see it on the data protector really clearly. I'll just show you what the... So that's sort of how you set it up. So you can add as many lessons as you want. So you just decide on each day what lessons you have and what the time is and put those in. And then it brings up a box, and so you can type in. I think the students can actually view them for a week at a time. So they can actually go in and see what the objectives are for all their lessons that week. They can go backwards and forwards. They can, if they've missed a lesson, they can actually go back and see what perhaps they've missed. The My Mail block links into our obviously Google Apps. So once they log in to our PapNet site, on the front page they can see their My Mail block. So they don't actually have to go and open Google Mail. They can see, they can either click on inbox and it will take them straight to their inbox. They don't need to go hunting for it, but it will show any messages that they've got, so they know whether they actually need to go and open their mail or not. So that's quite good visual on the... The other one which we really like is the progress bar. Progress bar is a block which actually visually shows what students have done in the course. So you can decide from your course any activities that you want to appear in the progress bar. So you can say, well, these are all the activities that you must complete. They then create a little box in the progress bar, and it only shows the number of boxes for what you've got. When a student hovers over a block, it actually tells them what that task is, and if it's got a deadline, what the deadline is, so they know when they've got to do it. If you click Overview of Students, it will then list all your students, and you can see what percentage of the course they've completed. The students really like it because that's on the front page of their course. They can see how much of the course they completed, what they still need to do. You and a teacher can really quickly see whether students are on track and what they're doing. It's really easy to set up, and the students really, really like it because it's really visual for them to see. The quiz results block, if you do lots of quizzes, lots of students quite like the competition of seeing how they're doing. You can get it to list the highest grades and the lowest grades. You can either have both or either, and you can decide, this is just the highest 5 grades, but you can decide how many highest grades you want, so you can put the whole class in there if you want, and it'll put them all in there. The other one linked to the glossary is if you've got a glossary on your course, you can actually add the random glossary entry block. If you put the random glossary entry, you can decide whether it's going to change the word in the glossary every time you log in or once a day. So you could use it for a quote of the day and get it to change the quote every week if you've got those in a glossary. So ours is set up in most cases that every time you log in it will go to a different glossary, and it's just pulling out whatever is in the glossary you tell it to pull out. So every time the students go in, they see another word or an image. I think so it's quite useful if you want students to learn things, because it's actually on the front page, so that it's generally subconsciously looking at those words, and you can use those for a whole load of information. The student information one, I remember that's just coming a block from our student block. You can also add a Twitter search block, so anything that you can search for on Twitter, you can set up the block to go on. So this was just what was on hash science, so I just edited the block, tell it to look for hash science, and then you can tell it, ask how many you want to display, and it'll just display the first 3 or the first 5 hashes. It's constantly updating. So if you've actually got a class and you've got that showing, you could have your students twittering stuff about the course, and it will immediately update, so everyone can actually see what's being tweeted and what about a subject, and students tend to quite like seeing those comments. Sorry, I had to swap the format of this file and it's gone a bit funny. Conditional activities are really good, just very quickly. If you set conditional activity, you have to set it up in admin to make them show on your courses, but when you then go to edit a course, at the bottom it will show you these conditional activities. So for every activity you can set up the conditions for a course. You can either have it so it's totally blank, so they don't see anything if they haven't completed it, or you can have it, if it's shown here, it says that what is digital citizenship is another task, that's restricted and not available until they've completed what does being a good digital citizen mean to you. So they can see what they have to do, but it doesn't actually show until they've completed it. So those are quite good. They're also quite good if you hide them totally, that your course doesn't look really messy with all the list of activities. Sometimes students get put off and they see a whole page that I've got to complete these 20 activities, and they just get put off. But if you actually show them one at a time, and they complete one and then move on to the next, it's actually a lot less daunting for them. Related to that as well, you can have activity completion. So every activity you can have it, the tracking on. You can have it so that it will show it's complete when they meet conditions, and those conditions might be they just have to view it. It might be they have to score a certain percentage in a test. So you decide what counts as being complete. It will then tick that box once they've met those criteria. So again, it's another visual thing for students to see how they're doing. You can also set them so the students can manually mark that they're complete. So there might be something that is a voluntary task, and you can say, well, if you do it, you can automatically tick. And there is a course completion block that you can put on as well, so students again can visually see whether they have or haven't completed them. And very lastly, the other thing that we've done with quite a lot of our courses is come up with some templates. So this is one we had, we said the lessons would have objectives, an introduction, resources, tasks, and then we actually had assignments as well. And then we actually put that onto teachers' Moodle courses as a template for them to use, because they're saying, I don't know how to set up my course, I don't know how to make it look nice, I don't know what to do. And we said, well, here's a template, type in lesson objective, write down what you want to do, drag and drop your resources in there, and lots of teachers found that really useful. And they also felt that it actually looked like a course. Even if they just dragged and dropped a resource under resources, it still actually looked like they'd done something on their course and there was actually something there. And then they felt more confident about adding more stuff in because they actually knew what the structure was. Because we found some teachers, they'd start and they'd drag some resources in, and then they'd drag others in, and then they'd decide it was all out of order and they didn't know what to do. So they found that this actually gave them a bit more structure to their layout. And you can set up whichever templates you want to put on your course. So very quickly, that's some of the things that we've done. I don't know, I think we've almost out of time, but does anyone have any other blocks or activities or things that they've used which they think are useful that they'd like to share? Or yep.
Yeah, on the last one when you showed the completion, I just want to point out that that gives you access to a whole set of nice reports.
Yes.
Yeah, on SignOn, so you get like the grid of students and then all the activities they completed. You can see them at a glance, which is fun.
Yeah.
Another resource as well.
All right, thank you very much and enjoy your lunch.